Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and broadcast. I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with BDEX's founder and CEO, David Finkelstein. Good to see you, David. What's new?
Hey, Jesse. What's new? I don't know. It's been a really busy week so far, and this day has just flown. Back-to-back meetings all day, and I don't know. It's just been. I think that January so far has been kind of exciting. There's been a lot going on. So, and I know a lot of people were at CES last week, so it was exciting for a lot of people, and overwhelming for a lot of people that were there last week, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And we're lucky because one of those people who were at CES is here with us today. And we're thrilled this week to welcome on this week's guest. It's Larry Allen, VP and GM of Data and Addressable Enablement at Comcast Advertising. Comcast Advertising is the advertising division of Comcast Cable. And Larry was also recently appointed the board chairman of Go Addressable, which is now an official nonprofit trade organization. The group also announced its first programmer member, which is Paramount. So we're pretty lucky today. Let's please welcome on our guest, Larry Allen. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Larry, it's great to have you on the show. Appreciate you joining us today. And I'm not going to attempt to, reiterate or repeat your title. But it has pretty much every letter in the alphabet on it. It's so long. But let me have you just start out by kicking it off and giving a little bit of background of how you got to where you are today, to that new position with Comcast Advertising. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, Comcast Advertising, and what it's doing for its clients today.
Sure, happy to. So I've been in the ad tech and advertising industry for about 25 years now. And most recently, before coming to Comcast, I spent 4 years at Turner Broadcasting, part of Warner Media and AT&T. And I spent a lot of time there working on product strategy and thinking about the future of television and how it was going to impact the advertising ecosystem. And we were working on basically an addressable solution. And I was engaged with Comcast because they were one of our big distribution partners. And I got very, very excited about the opportunity and what it meant for marketers, but also the impact it would have on measurement and attribution, and really being able to optimize and drive more performance for our clients. So one thing led to another, and Comcast was looking at kind of expanding their opportunity for enabling programmers within their addressable footprint. And I was fortunate enough to basically find myself in an opportunity to join the company and lead that effort. And so when I joined Comcast 4 years ago, I spent the first 2 years basically partnering with all the major programmers to get them live on our footprint to deliver addressable advertising. We've since expanded that capability into streaming, which is super important now as TV is kind of evolving and consumers are accessing video content in a number of different ways, which I'm sure we'll talk a lot about. And then through that course of time, using data to drive addressable campaigns, it was natural that we extended the opportunity into measurement and are using data that we sit on from a consumer perspective to help measurement companies improve their ability to understand how consumers are engaging with television content and ultimately the performance of that. So my remit has expanded from just working on the addressable capabilities to also licensing our data to a variety of measurement partners that can improve the quality of information received when a client is buying TV media.
That is really interesting. Well, thank you for sharing. I think this is going to be a great discussion. So let's get right into it. I'm going to pull the first topic up here. Larry, could you kick us off on our first topic, which is growth and momentum in TV ads?
Yeah, well, there's a lot there. Clearly, the consumer is leaned in and consuming TV content more than ever before. The challenge that we all face is that they're consuming that content on a variety of devices, a variety of services, different modalities in their home, out of home. And that while is exciting because they're consuming more and that creates more opportunities for advertisers, the challenge is the fragmentation of the media and making sure that you can reaggregate audiences, use data in a consistent way to reach those audiences and then measure them accordingly. But marketers are seeing the benefit of engaging in television. They get better performance from TV. We're seeing an increase in the adoption of addressable advertising. And our definition of addressable advertising is omni-channel. It's activating an audience and reaching them in any device as long as it's within premium, high quality, either live or on-demand video content.
Yeah, and you guys, and I know this obviously from firsthand, working with you a little bit, is you guys have pretty much a unique data set that's helping in the addressability and measurement. And maybe you can help, by explaining some of that to our listeners, because I think that's super valuable, and I think it's unique in the space, right? You're in a unique position to be able to provide a certain type of data set that is enabling that addressability and measurement as well.
Yeah, there's two kind of areas where the data kind of manifests itself. The first is when you're watching a traditional cable subscription within our hardware device in the home. We basically partner with the programmers or the content owners that we're distributing within that environment so that they can dynamically insert an ad. That's kind of the first part of the capability, is being able to, treat that live linear broadcast content like a digital environment. So we've upgraded our plant so that those programmers can instantaneously insert an ad when the consumer is watching the content. Then the second part of that is, at that moment in time, being able to identify the household and match it to a audience target that a client wants to reach, and do that in a privacy safe way, and then inform the programmer's ad server to make a decision. There's a match. You have a number of campaigns you could possibly insert, and then make the decision to do that insertion. So it's very much like digital advertising, but we do it leveraging deterministic data, both from the client, that's the audience that they want to reach, loyal car user, somebody coming off of a lease, or the loyalty card data from a grocery store for a particular CPG company. They can create a list of households that they're interested in going after, conquesting, et cetera. They can then match that to our subscriber base. And then when those individuals are watching TV, allow them to insert the appropriate ad and then ultimately downstream measure the result. Similarly, we have a capability within streaming where when an ad request is coming in either programmatically or via a regular kind of ad server request, we can, in partnership with the ad server, in most cases it's freewheel because they're the dominant ad server in the video ecosystem, we can catch that ad request and we can then do a lookup within our subscriber data and follow the exact same process. Basically then match deterministically the client's audience to our subscribers, and then at runtime insert the appropriate ad based on that deterministic data. And the big difference here is that we're doing it at a household match, and we're doing it protecting the consumer's opt-out requirements. We're making sure that we're doing it anonymously, so there's no data leakage, or there's no way for folks in the ecosystem to remarket or re-identify those customers, which is we think is a really important component of this. And it's highly accurate. Unlike the probabilistic mechanisms that have been used in digital, or areas where people are like, I have this small seat set audience and I want to model it up to a much bigger audience. We don't have the guesswork that's associated with that. We basically are saying these are known consumers that live in known households that we can then match in a privacy safe way to ensure that you're only reaching the audience that you want, eliminating the waste and dramatically improving performance of the campaign.
So to me, I have to say, like, this is like the holy grail to me. Like, this is something that I've wanted for a lifetime. I mean, I believe it or not, I was actually in the cable industry 22 years ago. I sold a business to a cable company and became a part of that company. And you know, for me, it's always been like a frustration that addressable TV didn't exist. And the closer we get, and the more we get to being able to actually, target advertising at the household level in this medium, for me, it's like, oh my God, finally, that's how I personally feel, because it's like for many years, it's like, it's been a frustration of mine because I understand the technology enough to know that it could be done. We just hadn't gotten there. And so I'm really excited to see us finally getting to that space.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, we've been doing a form of addressable TV probably for 10 years. It started largely geographically based because there was a need within markets that we operate in to kind of get down to the zone level or specific zip codes. And that was kind of the genesis of it. And then it evolved to audience-based selling. And it really has come into the kind of mainstream, I would say, in the last 2 years. And it's primarily because of scale and aggregation across the footprints, right? That was a really big part of why Go Addressable was formed in the first place. I might be jumping ahead a little bit here, but we did that because all of the distributors that initially started to kind of come together, we were all doing addressable just a little bit differently. And therefore, we heard from the marketplace, oh, it's really hard to execute these campaigns. And the reason why it was hard wasn't because it wasn't effective. It was because operationally, everybody did it a little bit differently. And then, you're cutting multiple IOs to people, you're sending audiences to different places, different standards, et cetera. And so we wanted to clean that up and make it not necessarily one-stop shopping, but one mechanism or one method for deploying an audience consistently across all of the providers that enable the capability. And then adding on top of that, not only the distribution companies like Comcast, but also the media owners like Paramount, like Warner Brothers Discovery, like NBC Universal, that in partnership with us can enable addressability, and all do it in a very similar way so that the market can remove friction and obviously run more demand.
This naturally, I'm sorry, Jesse.
No,
I think this naturally jumps us to the next topic, actually,
Yep.
and talk about adoption. Like where are we with respect to adoption and usage?
I mean, adoption is growing. When we survey the advertising marketplace, of those buyers who have tried addressable, 70% of them are going to do more of it, which is a great thing. You never want to have a product that somebody tries and then abandons. So that's good news. If they're using it, it's working and they want to do more of it. We've even heard from some individual customers that they're going to be doubling the amount of investment they make year over year in addressable because it's working so well. It just, the ROI is there. And once you start getting hooked on that, you're like, I need to do more of it. And then just generally the market is leaning in. Like this upfront, we expect to be a banner year for addressable. It should be on the majority of plans. People recognize that in order to build reach and drive incremental reach in TV, addressable is a really, really efficient way to do it. What we see is that a lot of these clients that are buying television, they're able to build reach very fast with linear TV. But then the hard part is closing the gap. Like you get to 50 or 60% of your target very quickly with a standard television campaign. Getting another 10 or 15% of your target is a struggle. And so by using addressable, you can isolate households that have been underexposed or not exposed and focus on them, and then use the next 2-3 weeks of the campaign to basically reach those households and get to your target.
So in some cases, it's just a matter of figuring out exactly how to get that incremental reach, right?
It's a very good use case, and it's being used by a lot of these clients because it's a more efficient way of using their dollars. round numbers, like once you hit the maturation point with your kind of standard linear campaign, if all you do is put more money into that linear engine, you're going to pay a lot of money for impressions in homes that you've already reached. And so you're not really wasting those dollars if your goal is frequency. There's certain advertisers that, want to be in front of you whenever you're watching TV. There's other advertisers that have limited budgets, and therefore when every dollar counts, you want to use those dollars as wisely as possible. And Addressable is really a efficient way to do that.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it earlier that digital marketers aren't picking it up as much in terms of, deterministically targeting their audience. So what do you think we need to do there in terms of adoption and getting the people online, the digital advertisers, to see what people on TV advertisers are doing?
Yeah, the digital advertisers are interesting. They believe that the buys they're executing have precision targeting. And there was probably a moment in time where that was true, when the cookie was universal and was widely used. And whether it was a first-party cookie or third-party cookie, it didn't matter. All the browsers accepted them. All of the ad tech infrastructure relied on that. You could build a target or identify a customer that came to your website, and then you could, find them again using that kind of cookie technology. That was good for a number of reasons, but it's bad from a consumer perspective because they didn't have any control. They didn't understand what was happening. They couldn't easily opt out of that experience. And so that obviously has crumbled. I think everyone has seen the news that's basically going away. That signal is really not useful. And in connected TV, that technology never existed. And so we're in a moment in time where the individual services that have registration or have a billing relationship with a customer, that tends to be a small percentage of those connected TV viewing audiences where there is ad supported content. And so this is the really kind of crazy thing that happened. Everybody in the market was like, oh, this is great. Everybody who's watching connected TV is a logged in customer. We're going to have precision targeting. The reality is those people who are logged in are watching non-ad supported content in the majority. And as they move to ad supported content, then those tend to be free ad supported services or email only registration experiences, which don't have a quality signal and are very hard to match to when you're trying to reach a specific audience. And so that all of a sudden you're like, I believe that digital has precision, but actually when I go to activate, there's very little precision. A lot of it is probabilistic in nature, or there's massive error rates in the matching process. And that causes, an impact to performance and therefore, and also price degradation of the inventory because it looks like it's lower quality. So what we're trying to do now is bring what we've done with linear addressable into the connected TV ecosystem with this product that I mentioned earlier, and partnering across the ecosystem to help people understand that using deterministic data, authenticated inventory where you do have a logged in customer, and pairing that with this ad supported content can really be a big benefit to both the seller of the inventory and to the marketer. But it's a kind of a new way of thinking about how you have to go to market because the processes are different than what they used to be. If you use a DSP to buy connected TV inventory, you thought you could just log in and start buying, and you were in 100% control. Now there's a handshake that has to happen between the buyer and the seller. Can still be programmatic, but you have to coordinate and collaborate. And that was a big theme last year at a number of conferences that I participated in. Collaboration across the ecosystem is paramount.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think unless you had anything else to add on adoption and usage, David, I was going to move on to the next topic.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was actually going to ask a question about the next topic. So that's, I think that's a perfect segue for us to just say, well, what's the future now of addressable advertising? Like, where are we going?
Well, I think the future of addressable advertising is both streaming, but also cross-screen. And so, and to a degree, streaming is cross-screen because it's cross-device, cross-service. When I say service, I mean like the apps or the content services that a consumer subscribes to. This notion of being able to aggregate an audience that you have defined at the household level and then deterministically reach them is where the market's going. Having identity, household identity as the backbone is critical, given the signal loss that's happening. And I also think that the future of addressable advertising is advertising. and I say that sort of in jest, but I mean that even if you are a large brand advertiser that has a extremely large audience target, think about a demo, people 18 to 49. Historically, you would buy linear TV, you'd reach that audience in mass. There would still be a bunch of waste, not only from a frequency perspective against that audience, but also outside of that target, people 50 plus. For some brands, that was free inventory that they got along with their target because it actually did provide some value. But there's many brands that really only want the people 18 to 49. Addressable will allow TV buyers to buy that target with confidence and be able to manage frequency across the services, therefore giving the consumer a better experience, not having a negative impact on the brand. The brand will get better performance metrics, both from a reach and frequency standpoint, but then also being able to link those households that were exposed to the ads to an outcome. And that's a massive benefit that we get from addressable advertising that I think the marketplace in large is starting to see. So not only can I control my campaign better and do better optimizations, I can now also link that campaign to an outcome more reliably than I otherwise could.
So tell us a little bit more about Go Addressable. You've been appointed the chairman, and so I'd love for you to share. This is a new initiative, so I think it is important for us to help you get some information out there to people so that they can learn a little bit more about it. So use this platform. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, I would love to. So Go Addressable is a nonprofit trade organization that we formalized last year. We've been, as a group, working together for the better part of 2.5 years prior to forming the trade organization. And the group has 3 primary goals. One is simplicity, make it easier for the buyer to buy addressable inventory from any owner of inventory that has the addressable capability. So whether that's a distributor or a content owner, to socialize those capabilities, which is really about education and advocacy. How do we make sure that all buyers understand what the benefits are, what the capabilities are, how they can take advantage of it, who the participants are, not only from an inventory perspective, but all of the other vendors that support the ecosystem, whether that's audience onboarders or measurement companies or planning tools. So making sure that the ecosystem has an awareness and then scale the adoption of that capability. And that's through things that we can do with partners, whether that's kind of leaning back on removing friction, but also just really making sure that there is enough inventory available, that it's, the group doesn't get involved in pricing, but thinking about the price benefit analysis of buying addressable and seeing the ROI so that they continue to invest more. The group does research. So we put out 3 studies a year in partnership with Ad Perceptions, basically tracking the trends of the addressable business. And then we also do bespoke research, in many cases with other organizations, in order to educate and highlight specific areas of interest. Last year, we did a segment on planning tools and what's needed and where the gaps are. And that's work that we're continuing into this year, where we're engaging with those vendors to help them understand, again, who the players are, what the benefits would be of having addressable information in the agency planning tools, and help them kind of really dig into the details about what's needed from a data perspective and kind of process integration perspective, so that the buy side can plan accordingly and make sure that they're strategically putting the dollars in the right buckets. It's not just about TV versus connected TV. There's actually, some nuance to that, and we want to make sure that the planning tools reflect it. So that's one example where, we as a group kind of get together and say, what's one big problem that we see that's holding back scale and adoption, and how do we as a group kind of collectively dig in and put our heads together and put forward some recommendations that vendors and technology companies in the ecosystem can really take hold of and say, oh, if we do this, the industry is going to adopt it. That's a good thing, as opposed to them kind of coming up with an idea on their own and then not getting traction.
So let me ask you a question. Is the initiative specific to linear TV, or is there also an aspect of improving interoperability between, linear and CTV?
Yeah, it's a great question. Interoperability is a big theme on simplification. We see addressable TV crossing linear and on-demand content. We often get stuck in this trap of thinking linear is traditional TV, like the old way of content distribution. And we really are now thinking about live and on demand on any platform that can be deterministically targeted, right? So that the definitions we have to do some work on, I think, collectively as an industry. But we've been very specific to say any distribution endpoint that a consumer is engaging with high quality premium TV content, whether it's live or on demand and ad supported, we're caring for those environments. And if you think about all of the members that are in, we all have streaming platforms. We all have, traditional TV distribution, either as a content owner or as the distributor of that content. And so we're trying to figure out, how do we mix it together, aggregate it in such a way that the buyer can buy television, again, regardless of the endpoint, the same way. And so that is absolutely something that we're solving for. And I think some of the announcements you've seen recently with AMC programmatically enabling linear TV, they put that side by side with their AMC Plus streaming inventory programmatically. So, you can use the same sales mechanism to access either type of inventory. Similarly, we're activating audiences consistently across multiple endpoints. So whether it's, a Zumo or Paramount Plus or Peacock, it doesn't matter. The audience can activate the same way with the same source information.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I think it says a lot for our future, in TV advertising. So I'm excited for that.
Absolutely. And it's like, I'm sort of curious still too about the makeup of their group. Could you talk to us a little bit more about the group? It sort of reminds me of a similar nonprofit, like in the texting world, all the telecom companies get together and make an agreement. So I'm just sort of curious, could you talk to us about the makeup of the group?
Yeah. So the membership are kind of two types of companies. One are distribution companies. So Comcast, Charter, DirecTV, Dish, Altice, and then programming companies like Paramount. So where they have content that they're distributing, those are absolutely the companies that currently are involved. And we have other folks that we're engaged with. We think that will be participants coming here into 24. Our hope is that, we also have some kind of virtual MVPDs participating as well that are more streaming only, but they they're not there yet, but we are open and hope that we get them to participate as well.
Well, I hope you get them to participate as well too. So hopefully they're listening here.
Yeah, one thing we did consciously was we host an event at the end of each year. We did our third one in November, and we had record attendance at that. We make that a free to attend event, either in person or live stream. And the goal there is to invite the industry to participate in a dialogue about addressability. And we did have most of them there. And so, either directly participating or through kind of that indirect participation, we are trying to at least get the word out and make sure people understand what the benefits are and how they can, engage.
Absolutely. So go ahead.
I was going to ask, what about data companies such as us? I mean,
yeah.
Looking at data companies that can help improve the targeting. Obviously we're not involved in the addressability side of it.
Yeah, we have currently we have 3 councils as part of Go Addressable. We have an agency advertiser council, we have a data council, and we have a technology council. And the goal there was to have non-paying members that could still participate, because like I mentioned before, it's a collaborative effort. We can't do it. The distributors and the content owners alone don't solve the problem. We have other companies that have to participate in order to bring this to life. And so those councils were really meant to be a way for us to create forums to talk about some of these specific problem areas. One of the things with the data council we originally surfaced was, hey, when we're onboarding audiences, how do we make sure everybody can interoperate and we can do that quick, and that the turnaround time is not weeks, that it's hours, right? And those were some of the topics that we talked about with that council in particular. Now we're evolving that to think about how do we use data as a proof point. So it's not as much about how do I activate the campaign. Now it's about how do I prove the campaign worked, and what are things we can do with partners in the data ecosystem to deliver case studies to the market where, we already have campaigns running, but maybe somebody didn't pay for an attribution study. If a data company is participating, they might offer that as a service to move the industry forward, for a specific campaign or a category or a set of campaigns. So those are some things that we're now talking about, is how do we, again, collectively bring the muscle of all of our companies together and then use that as proof point to move the industry forward.
That's awesome. And that's a conversation that we should have offline.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I look forward to that.
Absolutely. Lots of change can be made with the two of you. I know that much. But Larry, one question we ask all of our guests who come on Deconstructing Data are, what are some of your favorite tools in your tech stack? And this could be, your email tool or your calendar tool, anything. We hear everything from Snowflake. If you had to name some of your favorite tech tools, what would they be?
I mean, for me as an individual, or for me in supporting my business, I guess is the question. Maybe I'll answer both. So for me as an individual, I would definitely say email is still number one. Although texting, as crazy as that sounds, on my phone is probably becoming a close second. Talk to a lot of clients. I'm fortunate enough that I've been in the business a long time. Those clients are also friends in many cases. And I'm finding more and more that I get a faster, more cohesive or quick response, very to the point response when I text them versus when I email them. And then, Excel is still the hardest working application in media. So that would be me personally. And then from a business perspective, Freewheel is a critical partner of ours. They really help us make the magic happen when it comes to insertion of the addressable campaigns. BlockGraph is another super important partner for Comcast in particular, in order to onboard and offboard data in ways that are, again, privacy safe and help us protect our data, but create linkages that allow for a lot of the analytics and analysis to be done, as well as to onboard audience targets so that we can activate them efficiently and super fast at a relatively low cost. So I mean, those are two really important ones. Shout out to all my measurement partners that help us prove the performance of the campaigns as well. But those are two big ones.
Those are all good ones. I'm kind of trying to think back, David. I don't know if anyone's ever mentioned Excel before, which is a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible. Yeah, I shouldn't have said it, but
Oh, you absolutely should have. It is like, you're right. It's
Yeah.
nothing replaces it yet.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people still rely on it, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Larry, I'm curious if you could go back to a time when you first came into the advertising industry, what is the number one piece of advice you would give yourself?
Be curious. Don't be afraid to ask questions and put yourself out there. Like you have to network, you have to engage with people. And that's how you learn, so I would say that those are three big pieces of advice I'd give myself.
Yeah, that's a big one. Get out of
Yeah.
your shell.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So going off of that, are there any lessons you've learned along the way from this position or other past jobs where, that you think everyone should know?
Well, there's a lot of myths that exist, and it's easy to believe the noise. And what I mean by that is when you're reading the trades every day and you're all of a sudden there's this inertia around topics, a lot of people will just make the assumption that that noise is fact or truth. And I think you should always question if that makes sense and really dig in and get the details for yourself and try to uncover the truth, because typically what you're getting kind of in the noise machine is not necessarily truth. It may be some rumored aggregation of a grapevine version of the truth, but you really need to get the facts for yourself and talk to the experts, especially when we're dealing with these complex technical problems or technical environments. It's very easy to brush the details under the rug and just talk about the very high level. And then you can get it all wrong. And therefore, you're going to make very poor strategic choices. And also maybe not get to the best solution if you're in product build mode. Because if you're just believing the myth, then you're going to build something that isn't solving the correct problem. Identity and kind of this precision problem we've talked about. People believe that connected TV is precision targeting, and that's not really true. Like, there is truth to it. It can be done, but it isn't universal. And I think that you can have these generalities that can get you into real trouble and back you into a corner ultimately, especially with clients when you're making commitments.
I love that. That's such a great point. And I think that the same problem exists today in programmatic. A lot of people think programmatic is more addressable than it actually is, especially with Apple's, ATT, asked not to track. And so many people have been asked not to track. And there's all these non-addressable IDs out there. And a lot of people don't realize that the programmatic advertising that they're using is not nearly as addressable as it used to be.
That's absolutely true. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, and it's all a myth. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's a really good point, and it's a good lesson to learn.
Absolutely. Well, in closing, Larry, would you like to tell the listeners how they can find you?
Sure, happy to. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can search under Lawrence Allen, LAWRENCEALLEN, or you can email me at Larry_Allen@Comcast.com.
I heard you sort of emphasize that underscore. So everyone make sure it's not a dot. It's definitely
That's
an
right.
underscore. That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a great discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we appreciate you joining us. Jesse, you want to close us out?
I sure will. So audience members, we hope you'll check out BeatX's Omni IQ. And if you haven't checked out our QR code yet, I'm going to put it up on the screen for those of you who are watching. But if you're listening on podcast, just simply go to beatx.com and you can click the try for free button, or just use this QR code and it'll take you to OmniIQ. And once you get to OmniIQ, you can create an account, no credit card required. You simply upload a CSV file of your first party data, and you can get gender, birth year, and household income analytics on your data. And that's the complimentary stuff. And so once you see that, you're going to want more, and you can upgrade to learn more about your audience, and you can also expand your audience. Anything you'd want to add on that, David?
Yep. Nope. I think you said it at a T. You know, the idea with expanding your audience is basically just to find more people that are just like your best customers. And we do that using our machine learning platform. And it's has helped a lot of companies improve their targeting and improve their reach. So on the CTV and addressable side. So we're excited about this, and hope you guys, anyone that's listening, will try it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're listening, we'd love to hear from you. So let us know what you think if you do try out that app. I mean, I think you heard here how powerful targeting your audience deterministically can be. So, BDEX could be your first step into really trying this out. So I highly suggest check out OmniIQ and then reach us at info@bdex.com if you have any thoughts about it. But also, if you have any thoughts about who our next guest should be, we'd love to hear what you think about our show. And if you have any ideas for topics, share those with us. Share your qualitative data with us so we can make this better for you. And I think that's a wrap on episode 86. Thank you so much, Larry.
All right. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.